Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Understanding Conceptual Ideas Behind Solving Equations. And this time, really quickly, for solving two-step equations. We did one for solving the one-step or simple equations, and now we're going to do it for solving two steps. And of course, the same exact principles apply. We want to isolate that variable, and we want to keep the equation balanced. How do we isolate the variable? That's right, we use inverse operations. If we're dividing, we're going to multiply. If we're multiplying, we're going to divide. If we're adding, we're going to subtract. And if we're subtracting, we're going to add. We use those inverse operations to isolate the variable. Of course, you are going to learn when we get to some other equations later down the road that there are more operations that have inverse operations that go with them. But right now, we're using inverse operations to isolate the variable. And then, of course, properties of equality to keep the equation balanced. In other words, whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. So again, here's a model. And in this model, I now see that I have three of these boxes, these three unknown boxes, plus these 4 stars. These 3 unknown boxes plus these 4 stars, and they are equal to the 13 stars on the other side. So how do I represent these 3 unknown values? I use a variable, and that variable in this case is x. So I can write an equation out of this that 3x plus 4 is equal to 13. And of course, if I want to do the inverse operation of adding 4, I want to isolate this variable. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to get rid of these extras, these 4 stars, and I'm actually moving them to the other side, but we'll talk about that later. And how do I do that with the inverse operation? That means subtracting 4. So I'm going to take these 4 stars away, and of course a negative 4 plus 4 is 0. So that leaves me with 3x plus 0 equals 13. However, we need to keep the equation balanced, so if I take 4 away from one side, I have to use properties of equality and take 4 away from the other side, leaving 3x plus 0 equals 9. Well, of course, we don't need to write plus 0, so we can simplify that to 3x equals 9. Now, this 3x equals 9 is just like what we did yesterday, solving equations with multiplication and division. So if I'm multiplying this variable by 3, of course, the inverse operation would be to divide it by 3, and that's how we can isolate the variable. So when I divide by 3, I'm saying how many of these stars can fit into each box. I'm dividing by 3, so as you can see, 3 stars will fit into each box, but we don't want to know what goes into 3 stars. We want 3 boxes. We want to know how much goes into 1 box. So when we're dividing, we actually get the answer of 1 box is equal to 3. So x is equal to 3. There and hence, very simple, very straightforward, the conceptual understanding of solving a two-step equation. And it works the same as any operations that we use. Thank you, and I'll see you in just a moment for our first lesson video of the night.